They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What down that boat?
Hey guys, it's Amanda Nicole.
And I'm Joe.
And this is Girls Gore and Gin.
Join us every Thursday evening from 8 to 8:30ish for our live podcast.
And on Saturdays for our episode of the week.
This week we're going to be trying Junipero.
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 We don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but we're going to guess.
Sounds right. It's a San Francisco strength. It's actually a lot better than last week.
Oh, so much better than last week. And the Bakersfield gentlemen whipped up our lovely drinks.
Thank you guys.
Yes, so perfect.
Love it.
This week's topic will be about our personal favorite serial killers and why we like them so much. So my favorite serial killer is Jeffrey Dahmer. He is a sadistic motherfucker. Like, the amount of shit that he did in his time period it's insane. Like, it's just, like, he's so intriguing. And I know that it's so weird to be fascinated by serial killers, but the things that these people do and the way they think, it's just like, I can't believe people are like that. It's so, like, I just want to know everything that was going on in his head during this time. But, God, can you imagine just being alive during that time period? I don't think I would.
I couldn't even imagine being that person doing that kind of stuff to people.
That's true,
You know,
yeah.
like no, I would like to assume that I'm somewhat normal, but I can't imagine doing any of that stuff
Yeah.
to another human being or an animal, or because some people, they do things to animals before they end up doing them to humans.
I mean, I don't
So-
like people, but I don't think I'd
Right.
ever go that far. But so Jeffrey, so he killed a total of 17 people that we know of. Okay. And he probably would have never been caught if he actually didn't start screwing up. What was it, in the 1991, I think, he went on just a huge spree. It was like he was almost killing 2 people a week. I think he killed a total of 8 in 5 months.
That's greedy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
greedy.
Yeah, like 8 in 5 months, and that's when he started getting sloppy. He tried to change up his MO a little bit. He was getting not necessarily cocky, but he was just getting too wrapped up in all the power he had over these people that he just started screwing up. And I mean, eventually he got caught. But it's just crazy to think about how, like, he got started and how everybody thinks of him. So everybody thinks of him as being this cannibalistic person, but really he didn't even start eating them towards a couple people in, and even then it wasn't like he was having a full-on feast of them. Like, in his head, he had more control of a person when he ate them because they were part of him. And so his biggest problem with him was he didn't like abandonment issues. So obviously his mom, had another kid, and that's kind of when it all kind of started. He kind of going into that little, like, depression kind of kid, like, leave me alone, I'm soppy, sad, don't talk to me, And, his dad noticed it, like, when he was fairly young, because he found some, what were they doing? They moved somewhere, and I guess there was a bunch of animal bones underneath it, and he was really fascinated by it. And there was just a lot of crazy shit that he did growing up that you would think, like, this motherfucker's gonna turn out bad because he did a lot of crazy shit. Like, he even, I guess, the funniest thing I've ever heard, which is not really funny, kind of fucked up, but he gave tadpoles, is that what they're called? To his teacher, and then he found out that she gave them to another student. He broke into that student's home and killed the tadpoles with motor fluid.
What?
Yeah, motor fluid, I think is what it was. Something car related. And he killed him with that because he was mad that she gave them to him. And I was like, oh shit, poor little tadpoles. And this kid's like, he's still in school. He's like elementary age, I believe, when this was going on.
You don't want them. Nobody can have
Yeah,
them.
it's like that's a sign that kid's gonna be fucked when he gets older.
Right.
So it's just crazy to think about, like, how he started being, more fascinated with the animals. It wasn't that he was fascinated with killing them. He was more fascinated with them already being dead and, like, they're looking at their bodies and all that and stuff like that. So it's just crazy to think that a person could be like that. But just like, why are you gonna go rape a dead body? That's what I really don't get. And that was one of the things that he did, was he, you know, would lure these young kids that wanted to be models, you know, offer, hey, I'll pay you $20, you know, take some photos.
He was doing it to boys too, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think the youngest he did, I think, was 14.
Yeah.
And I think the oldest was
Jesus.
like 32 or something like that. But a lot of them are around 20, 25-ish age. And that's what he would do. They were a bunch of, you know, young gay kids that wanted to be models, and he would just offer to take their pictures, and then he would give them a drink, drug them. Most of the time he would strangle them. And yeah, he just would kill them, and then he wouldn't have sex with them until after he killed them. He would kill them and then have sex with their dead body.
Because they can't struggle no more.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And so I'm just like, okay, that's a little bit much, but it's just so, it's so intriguing to see how he progressed and how he changed. Like, and what's really crazy is to think about the kid that he sexually assaulted a kid, and the cops got called and everything because the kid got away, and he made those cops believe that, oh no, this is like my boyfriend, he's like 19, he's just drunk right now, you know. But that boy was like drugged, and his parents took him to the hospital. That's how the cops got involved. And so the fact that he like convinced these people that, oh no, this is like my boyfriend or something like that, that's crazy. And so it's just weird to think that that same kid, actually his younger brother is actually one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he actually, years later, that's actually one of his victims that he killed. And I don't know if he realized that was his brother or not, but it was. And to me, that's savage as fuck. It's like, I couldn't have used something against your brother. Like, no, that's crazy. But yeah, so Jeffrey, there's a lot of things about him. Like, I mean, his dad forced him to join the military, and he was not honorably discharged. He was just discharged. He was just discharged. And then he lived with his grandma for a while, and his grandma found some crazy shit. She found like a fully clothed mannequin one time that he had stolen. A couple of occasions where she found a bunch of, you know, dead squirrels and stuff like that. And she would always complain about the basement, which, I'm sorry, but if you live in a basement, then I'm just like, I don't trust you.
In your grandma's house?
Yeah, I don't trust you
Bring
if you
me
live
a
in your
sandwich,
parents'
Grandma.
basements. Because that just seems to be like the MO for killers or creepers, because, no. But yeah, she eventually kicked him out, I guess, and that's when he got his own apartment. That's when it really started, all the one after another after another. You know, he would go to the nightclubs, you know, drug them off of them. And I think the very first one started with because the guy didn't want to stay. They had met at the gay bar, hooked up, whatever, and then after a while, he wanted to leave, and Jeffrey was not happy with that. Like, he
probably felt more rejection.
Yeah, he already doesn't like abandonment, and so that just really fucked with him, and he's like, nope, you're done, I'm killing you. So he killed him, and then he kept part of the bodies, and that was the crazy thing, is when he was caught, I think there was 3, 4, I could be wrong, just human heads in his freezer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and the cops found all kinds of like crazy like bones and different full-on bodies. I guess there was a barrel full of 7 different people's body parts, something like that. But it's crazy. And then to think that, you know, he got away with this for as long as he did, and he probably could have kept getting away with it if he didn't get sloppy and he doing it so fast and so consistent. That's what really fucked him up.
Got greedy.
Yeah, he liked the power, and I mean, I can understand that, but I can't understand that actually.
Yeah,
like,
you can, but you
why?
can't. Yeah,
It's
on that
just,
level, you cannot
yeah,
understand.
It's just crazy to think, you know. And cool fun fact, he actually, when he would keep the skulls, he would paint them gray, so that if they were found, they looked like what the medical students used for their classes and stuff. So, talk about being smart, because he was pretty smart for the most part until he started, you know, fucking up.
Right.
But it's just crazy, you know. He's just fucking psychotic. Well, there's really no other way to put it. Like,
Right.
He was a sadistic, necrophiliac, rapist, murderer. Like,
did they ever say whether or not they diagnosed him with a mental disorder?
yes, actually, he was diagnosed with like bipolar, schizophrenic.
Ed Gein was diagnosed with schizophrenia too.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was diagnosed with borderline personality, psychotic psychotic disorder. I didn't know that was an actual order, just psychotic disorder.
Right.
And yeah, he was, what was he sentenced to? 15 terms of life imprisonment. At that point, I'm just like, just kill me.
Yeah.
Let's get it over with. If I'm going to spend 15 terms of life imprisonment, which I don't get the point of that. Why do it 15 terms? I mean, he's already going to get life.
Might as well sentence him to death and just stop wasting taxpayers' money.
And so, but I mean, ironically, he was murdered in jail. He was he was beaten to death by another inmate.
Oh shit.
Which, I mean, I guess that's what you get for being a creepy pedophile. But it's just his whole story and how he went from being this happy child. He really was happy until his mom went and had another fucking kid. And that's when all of his, deep issues came out. Like, he no longer was the center of attention.
Yeah. That's what I've noticed too. Like my short research on like serial killers is a lot of them end up having some kind of mental disorder. A lot of them have mother issues, and that's the thing too, is that when you're growing up, it's not just you, how you're born, that makes up how you're going to be as an adult. It's your surroundings. It's the stress that you have in your life. It's the things you're being put through. It's the things you experience. It's somebody had even told me that, it's even the microbes in your bed that can change you as a person, So it's a lot of different stuff. But, I mean, I've noticed that pattern. It's always a mother issue
or mental
rejection, mental issue, and it all just does not pan out well.
No.
Hug your moms, guys.
Yeah,
Hug your moms.
Be grateful. And mothers, stop having other kids. Wait till your kid's older, at least. I think he was only... I don't know how old he was, but he was young. He was like 5 or 6 or something like that when she got pregnant again.
Or stop coddling just the baby. Like you've got multiple. Spread the love. Love is for everyone. Come on, man.
Yeah. There was a theory, too, that because he had a double hernia surgery when he was like 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
So there's a theory that the sedatives and all that shit is what fucked up his head.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry. Once a psychopath, always a psychopath. You were born that way. But yeah, it's crazy. And I don't really hear too much about him eating them either. Whenever you do research about him and you listen to things about him, there's actually not so much focusing about him eating.
Just keeping the pieces.
Yeah, I mean, he would keep parts of the bodies, usually all of them, like, and as he kind of progressed, he got further into, like, completely decomposing their bodies or what he would keep on them or something. But he would always change it up a little bit more after each kill. And then it just got to the point where he just kept multiples in at once. Like, I'm sorry, don't keep like 6 heads in your freezer at one time. That's a little sketchy. And I think even the cops said, like, when he opened up the freezer and saw him, because they went to his house after the kid that had gotten away. They had somebody had gotten away, I think, is what it was. And they had gone to his house, and he, was like, they got automatically the smell walking in there. Ooh. Because you could just smell it. But they opened the freezer or the fridge, and this guy, I guess I read it a couple times, so I don't know if it's true or not, but I guess the cop even said something along the lines of, this guy's, like, messed up. Like, this guy is crazy. And I'm just like, yeah, I just want to get the fuck out of there. But I guess he did fight with them for a little bit, and then he finally was arrested, and then it was all downhill from then. Jeffrey, you're done. You're done for. So, yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite serial killers, and I haven't really watched too many movies that are kind of based off of it. I know that they just released one, or they're about to release one. My Friend Dahmer. It's coming out this year. That's what I thought. I'm really intrigued to see. I saw the person they have playing him, and he looks spot on. Yeah, that was the thing too with Jeffries. He actually wasn't that ugly back then. To me, I don't think he's attractive, but back then, he was this blondish hair, tall. But I think he was always pretty slim, and so he, especially for the gay community, I mean, he got the men. And that was the other thing too, is most of all of them were not white either. They were all some kind of other race. I think only like 2 of them, that all the ones that he killed, were actually just white. But most of them were African American and Asian and stuff like that. So apparently he don't like white boys. But I don't blame him. White boys are crazy.
Bitches are crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm done with Jeffrey.
Oh.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Do you have any lettuce?
done with
I have
that.
a head in the fridge. Sorry. This is good, Jen. I like this.
I really like this stuff.
do
I'm
too.
trying not to drink it too fast because of the whole video. But
My pick for this week was Ed Gein. He's also known as the Butcher of Plainfield. He was born in the early 1900s. His father was an alcoholic, and his mother was very religious to the point of being very fanatical. He was not born in Plainfield, Missouri.
he was born in Wisconsin.
Well, he was born in Wisconsin.
That's what's crazy about both of
Yeah.
our favorite serial killers. We're born in Wisconsin.
Both from Wisconsin. And the thing is, though, is like his family, they owned a grocery store where they lived in Wisconsin. I kind of forget where they first started out, but eventually the mother decided they did not want to live in the city they lived in anymore. She considered it, as what she said, like a Sodom and Gomorrah kind of place. It was just very sinful. She didn't want her children around that. She didn't want to be around that. So they sold their grocery store, and the money they had from that, they moved to Plainfield. And when Ed was a lot older, I think in his 30s, his father died because he was an alcoholic. And he was his father was an alcoholic. Sip sip. Anyway, and so it was just him, his brother, and his mother. Him and his brother ended up taking odd jobs to help, pay for bills and everything. They lived in a big farmhouse out in the middle of the country in Wisconsin. And one day they were out dealing with a brush fire, his brother and him, and it kind of got out of control. His brother ended up kind of getting what he said away from him during the whole thing and came up missing. He went straight to the police. And it was funny. He went to the police saying, "My brother is gone. I can't find him. We are fighting this fire, blah, blah, blah." But he was able to take him straight to his brother. Like, he knew exactly where his brother was, and his brother was dead. And they noticed that it seemed like there was some foul play involved. But at, the time that it was, they were just like, the family's been through enough, so we're just going to leave it alone. He probably just died from, like, smoke inhalation or whatever. And so he was just left with his mother. And after his brother had passed, he became severely attached to his mother. Like, he worshipped her almost. And she was what they would call a Bible thumper. She was just like, this is wrong, that's bad, this is bad, that's wrong. And he listened to a lot of that, and he continued to do odd jobs. He was actually a babysitter for a while.
Oh, wow.
For people in Plainfield, Wisconsin.
No
And it wasn't a big town at the time. It was a very small town. He was a babysitter. He did, some handyman work for people. And, after everything had happened, they'd interviewed, like, a lot of the town people, and they'd ask him, like, did you know Ed Gein? And they're like, yeah, he was a really nice guy. He was a little odd, but he was a very nice guy. He was simple, but you can tell he was different from other people, but he never gave anybody problems. One guy had, been quoted to say, because of the time, like, you gave him $1 to do some work for you, and you get $1.50 out of him. Like, he went above and beyond to make everyone happy.
Wow.
And it was a very hard worker. So nobody ever thought anything wrong of him. So the mother had a stroke, and when that happened, he became even more into his mother. Like, he did everything at her beck and call. He was just so in love with his mother.
That's so weird.
It's very, very weird.
I love you, Mom.
Yeah, I love you so much, Mom. But because she was still, and it was several months after her son Henry, his brother, was found dead, from the fire, and he did everything that she wanted him to do. She emasculated him. She talked down to him all the time. Everything he did was wrong. You have to do everything the Bible says.
And he still loved the bitch that much.
And he still loved her. And he did everything that she said. After she had the first stroke, she had another stroke, and then she finally passed. When that happened, his behavior became a little more bizarre. The farmhouse that he lived in, there was no electricity in it. He became more of a like a clutter bug.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He hoarded. He hoarded a lot of things. He was very filthy, had no electricity. But his mother's room, the thing was, is his mother's room was in pristine condition. It was closed up from the world. Nobody was allowed in it. He went in there and made sure everything was very clean.
Wow.
And left it alone. Nobody was allowed in there. And people weren't even allowed in his house. Like, he went and did farm work for people, and he made friends with people, and they would come to his house, and he would just meet them outside as soon as he see the truck pull up. Like, he'd be like, oh, I'll just go out and see you. Nobody ever went in the house, so nobody ever knew that he lived that way. And eventually he started grave robbing. He would start digging up. He was, like, obsessed with the obituaries to see who died. And he would start grave robbing. He'd take their bodies and he would do sexual things to them, slightly mutilate their bodies a little bit. And over the years of living in this town, people would just start coming up missing. Like, there was a lady who owned a bar. They said she cursed like a sailor. She was a tough woman. She owned the bar, and she just came up missing one day.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, he didn't like women like that because his mother taught him, like, you know,
that's wrong.
this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And then, you know, as time went on, you know, more and more people became, you know, missing. And then one day, it was in November when they started their deer hunting season.
Okay.
Everybody went deer hunting, and it wasn't for sport, it was for survival at that time. You know, every man in that town went hunting the same day so they can all get, you know, deer and food for the winter, as much as they could for the winter. And he didn't go out with everybody, and he went to a hardware store that was owned by a woman. I believe her name was Barbara Warden. And he would go in there often to buy things. And on that day, her store never opened. And people were waiting around all day long for her store to open because they would, you know, it's hardware.
That's where they would go, yeah.
It's where the men would go. But the men had been gone all day long, so it's just all the women in the town. And they said, you know, we'd waited all day for this store to open, and then finally, her son had come back from hunting and went to her store, went inside and found that everything was in shambles, you know, like somebody had robbed it, and his mother was nowhere to be found. He was also a detective. So he was a little suspicious already of Ed Gein because he was just kind of simple, and he was a little weird, he was a little different. Some of the women, you know, in the town felt a little uncomfortable when he'd come around because of the way he would just, like, glare at them.
Yeah.
He would just glare at them. He would never say anything, but he would just glare at them in a weird way.
Just that vibe.
Yeah.
That creepy vibe.
Yeah, and so he had the... I want to say that he had the police department go to his home, and when they went to his home, he wasn't there. The doors were locked, so they obviously couldn't get in. So they went around to a barn that he had on the side, and there was no electricity in the barn either. So they had their flashlights, and they're walking around, and one of the police officers bumped into something. Oh. And when he turned around and looked, it was Mrs. Warden. She was hung upside down. She was decapitated, she was naked, and she was skinned.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it was horrible. They finally went in the house. When they were able to go into the house, you know, it was dark because there's no electricity. Everything's in shambles. They said the kitchen was so cluttered and nasty and gross. They said they had found jewelry that he had made out of nipples. Like a necklace that was made out of nipples. Yes. There was a skull that was turned into like a bowl. There was a lampshade.
Cool.
Right. There was a lampshade that was made out of human skin. He had furniture that was upholstered with skin that he had done himself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a lot that he had done. And it was just so gross and crazy. They had found a bag. I want to say it was by his bed. They had one of the cops had opened the bag, and he just saw like a tuft of hair. I guess that's what you'd call a tuft of hair. And he said he didn't know why, but he had the urge to like pull it out.
And it was a head?
It was like a skinned skull, and it was of the lady who owned the bar.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they had found,
and it gone for a while?
Yeah, it was gone for a while, and they have a little bit of footage from when they had gone through his house, and they found like it looked like a mask with hair on it, and they'd pull it up and there'd be a skull underneath it, but it was somebody's face, and he just put it over someone else's skull.
Oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah, and he had a cauldron that was in his house that had like human remains in it. Just so much stuff. And when they finally took him in, he had no clue at what he had done. Like, he didn't understand what he had done wrong, and they diagnosed him with being a schizophrenic. They stuck him in a mental penitentiary type deal for the criminally insane. And because they didn't feel that he was fit for trial because he didn't understand what he was doing wrong.
But see, I always wonder, like, are they just acting?
Right.
Or do they really not
I'm
understand
already
what
this
they
fucking
did?
crazy. Let's just go with it. I'll just play stupid too on top of that. But years and years and years later, they reevaluated him, and they gave him another trial.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was like 9 days long or whatever. They ended up sending it. I want to say they sent him back to the mental institution.
I would think.
And that's where he lived out the rest of his life. I want to say he died in the 80s. 84, yes, that's right, because that was the year I was born. But,
congrats, you're the reincarnation.
Congrats. Yum, 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 yum. After he was actually, like, standing trial and was convicted and sent back to the mental institution, they had an estate sale, and they were going to auction off a lot of his stuff. But they had taken all of, like, the human artifacts out. But they said, like, hundreds of people had shown up just, like, looky-loos.
To see about that kind of shit?
Just to see if anything would be there. And somebody had bought his car. Somebody bought his personal vehicle and was taking it around like a sideshow attraction. And they had it in a tent, and they would charge people an admission, and they'd advertise it as, like, Ed Gein's vehicle, the murderer's vehicle, blah, 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 blah. And people would show up and, like, pay to see it, like, all the time. But somebody had burned his home down when he was locked up. Like, right before the estate sale, somebody had burned his home to the ground, and they told him, they said, hey, your house got burned to the ground. And he's like, okay. So,
like, all right.
It was bound to happen, I guess. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. But they the movies that were inspired by him were Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Psycho, and Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. So, for the skin wearing, Psycho would be, like the crazy mama's boy kind of deal, if you will.
Norman Bates.
Yeah, Norman Bates. Yeah. That's crazy. That was a lot going on for that guy. But they actually diagnosed him with being a schizophrenic. So
he had a somewhat of an excuse.
Somewhat, but not really. I mean, his mom was crazy. His dad was an alcoholic. A lot of crap had happened in his life, and he just nutted the hell out. Mm-hmm. So,
could you imagine being a police officer that finds the serial killers? Like,
no, I
can
try
you
to
imagine
think about
what you go through? What goes through your head when you're going into a house and you just, like you said, you just bump into something, and next thing you know, oh shit, it's the bar owner, or oh
yeah,
shit,
I just
my
touched a dead body.
friend.
Like crap.
Okay, especially in a small town like that. Like,
Right.
I mean, somewhere like here, we have murders all the time, but nothing on that scale.
No.
Like, I would never want to be a cop, especially around that time period between like the 50s and like the early 90s when it was nothing but serial killers.
Right. And
Fuck
Prozac
that.
helps some people. Not everyone. But if you feel that you have a mental issue or someone you know,
Talk to somebody
talk to somebody about
before
it.
you get skinned alive.
Or eaten. Or whatever.
Yeah, let's not do that.
No.
Alright guys, thank you for watching our video. Be sure to check out all the other videos on the Wasp Nest channel. Be sure to follow us on our social media. They will be in the description below. And catch us for our live feed next week.
Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.